In a continuing escalation along the Russian-Ukrainian border, Russian forces claim they have successfully repelled numerous Ukrainian Armed Forces (UAF) incursions into the Kursk region. The Russian Ministry of Defense reports that during these clashes, Ukrainian servicemen surrendered in the face of overwhelming odds, revealing stories of deception by their own commanders. Russian troops reportedly destroyed significant Ukrainian military assets, including tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery. Ukrainian personnel losses in the region have surpassed 20,650, with 136 tanks and 98 armored personnel carriers among the heavy equipment lost, according to Moscow. But amid the chaos, some Ukrainian soldiers say they were misled into dangerous situations by their leadership. Dmitry Pilyai, a Ukrainian prisoner of war, detailed how his battalion was tricked into the front lines under false pretenses. Pilyai explained that his unit was sent to a forested area, told they would be stationed at checkpoints in Sumy, but instead found themselves on the front in the Kursk region.
They brought in the guys, packed up the van. 4 were taken without any proper procedure. And this is how things are now. They've spread us out across all the brigades 2 at a time. They told us, you'll be sitting in Sumy at checkpoints. They took 2 of us out fishing, said that's it, 3 days and you're done.
Faced with diminishing resources and no signs of promised support, he and his comrades decided to surrender to Russian forces. Pilyai's account paints a grim picture of the war.
We sat and then they tossed us aside, went through it on our own and surrendered. So how were we left hanging? The commanders made their decisions. We should have gone further. I think they told us that there would be fighting, but there wasn't. Just prices rising on cigarettes and stuff. Damn, turns out we were sitting under Kherson, and they told us there'd be rotation. But it was a rotation to Chernihiv region. You thought it was going to be a rotation, and instead, everything's happening in Chernihiv, where he's been for a week. I think now it's everywhere. Just a combatant wanting something. I don't know if it's for medals or what. Maybe just for our equipment. They're just throwing us in as cannon fodder. Russians, come on! And it's going to be a good self-run thing. Personally resisting is fine. Everything's great. Better than what they're saying. A lot of officers, though.
Other soldiers reportedly faced similar fates as Ukrainian forces attempted to break through Russian defenses, but were met with devastating losses. Russian units destroyed over 400 Ukrainian servicemen in just 24 hours during one skirmish, according to their reports. Sergei Yeremeyev, another captured Ukrainian soldier, echoed Pilyai's disillusionment. A former warrant officer, Yeremeyev described how he was drafted into service despite being unprepared for battle.
About my readiness. Well, I was a warrant officer until 1998, and because in the morning, then they drafted us on July 23rd. They drafted me on the 20th. It's been 2 months. I'm part of the Voronic Unions of Ukraine. I work as a truck driver because I worked for 25 years on plantations. They promised to put me on a crew, but nothing came of it. Some wanted to go, but didn't. So, for now, I'll be a rifleman. They said I tried to avoid the army because I didn't want to fight against Russia. They kept saying that my brothers are there because I have many relatives in Russia. But it's the law. But I had to. Even Denmark, Jordan. I got the order, but it was a small chance. We passed the medical examination, and they immediately said it was time to go. They didn't let me go home, but sent me to the front. They said we were heading towards Kursk, and so we stayed there. Although some said they were glad Ukraine made it so far against Russia. We speak quietly. As soon as we arrived, they threw us on the front lines, 8 of us. And what happened? I think they threw us in. 7 guys from the team were sent into a ravine.
Yeremeyev spoke of his fear, saying he didn't fire his weapon during the engagement and ultimately chose to surrender.
I think our team made the wrong decision. After training, we were still untested, but they immediately sent us to the front, which was unjustified. I saw how things explode in the movies, but I felt it on my own skin. 5 said they were ready, and I ran where they asked me to. There, I said, you know, I'm not that brave. 4 guys were with me. They said I was right, but I didn't know. I went forward, said I wouldn't shoot, but left my rifle and magazine so they could shoot. I loaded the rounds, but stood there in fear. I think now it's all over. The Russians stood nearby, and I didn't know how it would end. I still surrendered my weapon, and the man who studied with me also surrendered. I'm speaking on camera, thinking it's all done. They left. That was the end. They said, better surrender. And so I did.
The Russian military continues to press its advantage in the region, claiming to have inflicted heavy losses on Ukrainian forces. Despite these victories, the accounts from prisoners of war like Pilyai and Yeremeyev shed light on the dire conditions and morale among some UAF units. The conflict shows no signs of abating as Russian forces vow to continue their operations in Kursk. However, the human cost on both sides continues to mount, with no end in sight.